Hey, it's a live music showcase from WMNF 88.5 Tampa, FLA. We're happy to be coming to you live today. If you want to watch us on TV, Facebook, LMS WMNF. Get our live feed. And on the show today, one of our favorite guests on the show, Chuck Brodsky. Chuck's down from North Carolina. He's got a couple of gigs in the area, and we want to hear some songs from Chuck. So we're happy that he's been able to come back and be on the show. Hey, Chuck, welcome.
Thanks, Bill. Great to see you.
Let's start off with a tune.
All right. This is called What Good Did It Do? My prize, I took first place. The poor runner-up, the sad look on her face. I didn't drink the champagne, left my ribbon there too. Okay, so I won, but what good did it do? Okay, so I won. What good did it do? I stood with conviction, I put up a fight for the truth as I saw it, for peace, love, and light. I fought off the darkness for the first round or two. I got my licks in. What good did it do? Oh, I got my licks in. What good did it do? And in the end I was right. Upon further review, all those things I was saying proved to be true. I got an admission, an apology too. In the end I was right, but what good did it do? In the end I was right, what good did it do? Tried to live by my morals, I spoke my mind. Some friends got offended, and one or two they resigned. I was just being honest, and they already knew. I just tried to remind them, what good did it do? I tried to remind them, what good did it do? And I could hold a grudge, I could probably hold two. If I didn't learn to budge, I could end up holding quite a few. I didn't like being angry, it's not enough being right. No, I'd rather be happy, and that's a hard enough fight. I'd rather be happy with all of my might than to sit here and stew. What good would it do to sit here and stew? What good would it do? I'd rather be happy, happy with you.
Chuck Brodsky is our guest on today's live music showcase from WMNF. I'm Bill Dudley. Mark Perfetti doing the mixing up today, and I'll tell you about the other folks on the crew in just a little while. But I want to say to Chuck, you know, it seems like you have a couple of different facets of your songwriting. You've got your story songs, and then you've got these philosophical songs. That's one I really like.
Thank you. Well, I just see, anything and everything is fair game to write about if it's interesting.
Yeah.
It's, love is only one single topic to write about. And
well, I know
trains is another, and pickup trucks is a third, but, there's so many different topics out there. And
a friend of mine who's a Florida singer-songwriter, he says, there's enough oh baby songs in the world.
Aren't there, though?
So Chuck's our guest on today's show here. It's the show we do every Friday. And however, in light of situation in the country right now and in Florida, this is going to be our last live show for a while until things kind of settle down. But Randy will be playing you some of the best of the live music showcase in the weeks to come. And we'll be back on here live, hopefully, in the next month or two, if things all kind of die down, which we hope they will, for God's sake, yeah. So how are you doing?
Well, depends on when you ask. Minute by minute, things are changing, and I've already had several of my upcoming concerts canceled. I just found out about another one this morning on the way over here.
That's the gig economy is getting hit pretty hard.
Yeah, it is. There's been a lot of discussion amongst musicians on Facebook, having conversations back and forth, and people posing questions to the general musician public. How are you guys going to cope? What's going on with you? And I've been reading everybody's responses, and it's very frightening because all of us are, we still have mortgages to pay, and we still have utility bills and groceries and all of the other expenses, but our income is not going to be there for the foreseeable future, and none of us know how we're going to deal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So.
Well, you do have a couple of things coming up that people can come out and hear you. These are the last for a while.
Yeah, these could be the last two for a long time.
Yeah, well, it could be. But let's just say, let's keep hopeful.
Yeah.
Sold out show tonight at the Craftsman House Gallery, Cafe and Pottery Studio in St. Pete. That is sold out, but, keep tabs on that because there may be some openings there, right?
What I would suggest is to call, if you're interested and you don't have a ticket already, call and ask to be put on the waiting list, because there have been several cancellations already from people that are just afraid to go and be part of a group, and I understand that, but because of the waiting list, we're able to fill those spots, and if anybody else cancels, there could very well be more openings.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, so that's the Craftsman House Gallery in St. Pete. Shows at 6:30 this evening. But Chuck's scheduled for Sunday at 3 o'clock in Ruskin at the Firehouse Cultural Center. And you have reason to believe there's still availabilities for that.
Yes.
Folks to come to that. Okay, and you can check him at chuckbrodsky.com. That's spelled Brodsky. chuckbrodsky.com has all of his gigs and stuff like that, or the news of Chuck, so check that out. And this show here, as I mentioned earlier, is being broadcast right now on Facebook Live. Just go to Facebook, type in LMS WMNF, and you'll see our show. Let's have another song from Chuck Brodsky.
Okay. Well, this is the title track of my most recent CD. It's called Them and Us, which is a concept I don't believe in. And in hindsight, I wish I had titled this album Them and Us and Me. But by and by, I just think we're all one big us. Sometimes we're all just one big them, but I think we're really one big us.
There's a standoff all across the Great Divide, with friends and family members on both sides. Someone struck a match, it would combust, scorching everyone, both them and us. It's raining dirty words and disrespect. It's not having any positive effect. The bridges have collapsed because of rust. You can't reach each other, them and us. Got our earplugs in and our blinders on, and we wonder, where have all the flowers gone? Where once there was a garden, cool and lush. All that's left here now is them and us. And I've never felt so lonely in this world as I do when all those banners are unfurled and the airwaves are just spewing all that stuff about us and them. Look what it's done to us. The differences are few and overblown, and it sometimes leads to punches being thrown. But there seems to be a few things to discuss, but you can't say a word to them or us. We write them off because of how they vote, and we write them off because they came on a boat. And we turn our backs with contempt and with disgust at every one of them who isn't us. And we identify them by the clothes they wear. We identify them by their skin and hair. And we look for any reason not to trust whatever about them is not like us. And I've never felt so lonely in this world as I do when all those banners are unfurled and the airwaves are just spewing all that stuff about us and them. Look what it's done to us. Thoughtful, decent people turning mean. If only all our gods could intervene. There must be some controls they could adjust. Maybe they could make us whole, them and us. And I've never felt so lonely in this world as I do when all those banners are unfurled and the airwaves are just spewing all that stuff about us and them. Look what it's done to us. There's a standoff all across the Great Divide with friends and family members on both sides.
That's Chuck Brodsky. He's our guest on today's live music showcase here from WMNF. Chuck Brodsky and his guitar and a great song. That's the name of your. That's the title of your most recent album, Them and Us, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So Chuck's been doing this for a few years. He does a lot of baseball songs too. Are you going to do us a baseball song? Could I persuade you to do one, or are you going to save them for later on?
Could I do it after this next one?
Sure.
Because I just started tuning for...
All right. Well, I'll go ahead and tell everybody about all the great folks it takes to put this show on. Mark Perfetti, as I mentioned, is our mixographer today, doing a great job. He's assisted today by Richard Stone, and Dr. Stone is also our YouTube facilitator. He gets this program on YouTube, and it'll be up there for you to watch, along with the last 5 or 6 years of live music showcases, and they look really good. Marcy and Tom Connors and Sean Breen are here on cameras today. Bob Hoke is the director of this show. Our security today is provided by Mr. Shane and Mr. Townsend. And we also like to shout out to Emma Friedman, who's taking care of things in the control room, making sure the levels are good. So that's our live music showcase crew here at 88.5 WMNF Tampa. Okay, what you got here?
Well, I just thought I should follow up that last song with this one here because, as we all know, it's become just so difficult to have a conversation about politics with anybody these days, especially if it's somebody who doesn't necessarily agree with your perspective. And I have tried all sorts of approaches to try to get people to change their minds, and of course, you know, they all fail, except I think I have finally come up with a way of getting your point across and getting somebody to see and changing their perspective.
I'm all ears.
Here you go.
After 3 or 4 tries, I poked out his eyes, and that's how I got him to see. To get him to hear, I screamed in his ear, and I gave him the 3rd degree. I sharply berated him, I told him I hated him, I wasn't very kind. I shouted and cussed until I won his trust. Well, that's how I changed his mind. Well, I shunned him, ignored him, I wouldn't look toward him, I only would give him my back. I accused him of lies, I would not compromise, I erased him after the fact. I was abrupt, I would often interrupt, we were volatile when combined. And in stating my case, I blew up in his face. Well, that's how I changed his mind. That's how I changed his mind. That's how I changed his mind. I blamed him, shamed him, insulted and inflamed him. That's how I changed his mind. Now this man was an ass. I was gonna let him pass, let him take a wide berth of me. But I was right and he was wrong, like I was telling him all along, trying to just get him to see. But he's a this and I'm a that, and so we couldn't have a chat of the friendly and civilized kind. No, round after round, I just ground him down, and that's how I changed his mind. I stomped on his toes and I punched him in the nose. I was using irony. So sure of the truth, I knocked out his tooth and I kicked him twice in the knee. Till I went over his heart with a poisonous dart, and you should have seen me unwind. Being overly cruel and with ridicule, well, that's how I changed his mind. That's how I changed his mind. That's how I changed his mind. Blamed him, shamed him, insulted and inflamed him. That's how I changed his mind. And so I called him a fool, challenged him to a duel. I threw my white glove in his face. 20 paces and I shot. It must have hit the spot. Anyway, that's how I pleaded my case. Well, I won in the end after making him bend. And after all, the papers were signed. In the end, I won. Yeah, that's how it was done. Well, that's how I changed his mind. That's how I changed his mind. That's how I changed his mind. I blamed him, shamed him, insulted and inflamed him. That's how I changed his mind. Yeah, I blamed him, shamed him, I might have even maimed him. That's how I changed his mind.
What's the name of that? That's how I changed.
That's how I changed his mind.
Jeez.
And it works every time.
A subtle song.
Yeah.
Chuck Brodsky. He's our guest on today's live music showcase here from WMNF. You know, a few weeks ago we had our fundraiser. We didn't quite make our goal on this particular show, so, you know, if you feel kindly disposed towards live music, as we know we are, and considering making a donation at WMNF Community Radio, I know things are kind of tricky right now, but just go to WMNF.org, check out the tip jar right there on the web page, and give us a little help here to keep this radio station and this radio show on the air here, because we do love live music. As I mentioned before, our show's on YouTube, going back years and years. You can see some great shows on our YouTube channel. Just search for WMNF Live Music Showcase, you'll get it. And we also stream live, like we're doing right now, on Facebook. Just go to Facebook, type in LMS WMNF. That'll get you there. So, Chuck, you often come down here for spring training. I'm sorry it was canceled this year.
Yeah.
That was kind of a last-minute deal, huh?
Yeah, it's a bummer. For the last 15 years, been joining up with my dad, who flies down from Philadelphia, and
That's where you grew up, right, Phil?
Yeah, and two other guys in our party. And we were supposed to see our first game on Tuesday next week, and we had about 7 games worth of tickets. And we do it every year, and we start looking forward to it the day we say goodbye the year before.
Yeah.
And, you know, so all year long we've been really looking forward to being down here. And it's, you know, it's real sad to have this happen. And we understand why. It absolutely has to be done, but we miss it. And, you know, it kind of has me thinking kind of the parallels back to like when World War II broke out and the president declared that baseball needed to go on. You know, I realize it wasn't with a contagious disease that could spread, but it makes me wonder why they're not playing these games anyway in empty ballparks so that the games could still be on TV when we're all wondering what can we do? Where can we go? We can't gather anywhere.
Yeah.
It'd be nice if there was at least that institution called baseball to turn to.
Many people don't realize how important baseball is to the American heritage.
Yeah. And to the psyche, the current psyche.
Yeah. Well, now I know you've written some great baseball songs. Care to do one of those for us here?
I'd like to do a brand new one. I have no one's ever heard this before. I just finished it this week. In fact, maybe it's not even finished. Maybe I'll still make some changes to it. But it just, you have to start singing a new song sometime. So it might as well be here. That's last year I had a new one for you. And I just think, given the circumstances, this might be a good song for me to play right now. So.
Well, the country needed baseball. The boys were overseas, fighting with the Germans and the Japanese. Well, just beyond the outfield, the flag blew in the breeze. The girls were wearing blouses and skirts above the knees. The country needed baseball, and the girls were really good. The sounds were therapeutic of the cowhide meeting wood. wrestled and got dirty, skinned their elbows and their knees. And for a couple precious hours, people's minds could be at ease. The country knitted baseball like you'd need a cigarette when you've gone too long without one, and you still can't have one yet. And your loved ones in the trenches with a gun and bayonet, and you're stuck there waiting tables at the corner luncheonette. The country needed baseball to give itself a lift. Not every patriotic woman had to fill a factory shift. Some could hit a curveball, and others could throw strikes. Some would run you over, some would cut you with their spikes. We needed baseball on Sunday afternoons. The stadiums would fill up. There were banners and balloons. There was Cracker Jack and peanuts, hot dogs, beer and Coke. And just like when the boys played, it all tastes like cigar smoke. The country needed baseball, the boys were overseas.
Chuck Brodsky with a baseball song. Chuck, you've got like, 10 or 11 albums out, right?
Well, I have 12 albums out, and 2 of them are all baseball.
That's what I was just going to ask about.
Song CDs, the baseball ballads, 1 and 2.
Yeah.
And there'll be a 3rd one, hopefully this year.
Great. Well, it's great to have you on the show.
Great to be here.
Yeah. The song, the baseball song that I fell in love with, I guess it was last year when you sang it. It was a new song.
Yeah.
Are you going to do that for us?
Sure.
I'd sure love to hear that.
Yeah.
This song is really kind of cool because it talks about a part of baseball that's not really known by the people. You know, it's kind of, you came up with a real interesting concept on this song. You want to just sketch in what's happening here?
Yeah. I like to always start by saying not every baseball song can be about the guy who signs the 13-year contract for $330 million. There are other sides to baseball. And this is a song about a man by the name of Brian Mazzone, who was a career minor league pitcher. And I think his story is probably similar to many, many others. He pitched for probably a dozen years in the minor leagues, and finally got a call up at the age of 30 or 31 for a spot start, and this is the story.
That means he just jumps right into a major game.
Yeah, one of the pitchers in the major league team's rotation had a sore arm and had to skip one of his scheduled starts, so they needed to call somebody from the minor leagues up to fill in for that one game. And they called up Brian Mazzone. I knew his aunt, actually. And one year, or for a couple of years, he was in the Phillies organization, and so I knew he would be in Clearwater. And I made a point of finding him on one of the practice fields and saying hi and telling him I knew his aunt. And she got me an autographed Lehigh Valley Iron Pigs cap.
That was his.
By
that
Brian.
Was his team.
That's where he was pitching, the AAA affiliate of the Phillies.
Wow. But this song is about that event where he was called up.
This is about the game that he was called up for, and it's called Cup of Coffee.
There was orange on the radar. In some places it was red. You saw it on the TV he was still in bed. Room service brought him breakfast, some good coffee as well. He could get used to staying at a major league hotel. It was raining hard that morning. The whole day it would pour. And he would just stare out the window from the 22nd floor. The night before at supper, some joint in Buffalo, the skipper called to tell him he was going to the show. Text messages and emails were lighting up his phone from all his friends and family, from everyone he'd ever known. His folks flew in from Boston. His wife just made her flight. They all got there the next day to see him pitch that night. And so he put his big league pants on, and he tied his big league shoes, while a couple of big leaguers were giving interviews. His name was in the lineup, and he was mentioned on the news. He'd knocked around a dozen years for this. He'd even pitched in Veracruz. And so he walked out through that tunnel to stand on a big league mound. His tears mixed with the raindrops, and it felt like he might drown. He squeezed a big league baseball, ran his fingers along the seams. The rain was cruel and stung him as it washed away his dreams. And it was flooded in the dugout, and it was a lonely place to sit. He thought of going to Korea, or maybe it was time to quit. And how next time they need a pitcher, they'll probably call up some kid. And every time thereafter, that's exactly what they did. Well, that tarp was never lifted, and that storm never let up. It's like he got his cup of coffee without the coffee cup. They let him keep his jersey, and they boxed it soaking wet. And that was as close to the majors as he would ever get. Well, now you can't say that's baseball, especially if you never played for the guy who worked his ass off and, whose dues were overpaid. Well, this was all he'd ever wanted. Ever since the 7th grade. Congratulations were in order, but condolences were paid. No, that tarp was never lifted, and that storm never let up. It's like he got his cup of coffee without the coffee cup.
What a great song. What a great song. I love the way you tied everything together in that, you know. Yeah. So they didn't even let him dry his jersey out before they put it in a box. Oh, my. Hey, someone just called us up who works at spring training. Of course, they're out of work, and said they really appreciated your song and discussion about that.
Thank you for calling in.
Yeah.
My heart goes out to you and everybody who is going to be deprived of making their living however long this lasts.
I kind of agree with you. I think they ought to go ahead and have the games put on TV, you know. Well, Chuck Brodsky is our guest on today's Live Music Showcase here from WMNF. And as I said at the beginning of the show, this is our last show to be televised for a while. But hopefully we'll be back on TV in a few weeks or months or whatever, hopefully soon. You will still be able to hear some great shows. We'll be putting on a best of show every week in the weeks to come here on the radio side of things. But hopefully we'll be back with our TV crew here. Marcy and Tom Connors and Sean Breen on cameras today. Bob Hoke is the director of the TV portion of this show. They always do such a good job. Mark Perfetti's mixing it up today. Today's assisted by Dr. Richard Stone, and we've got a really nice Live Music Showcase crew. Marcy Connors does our makeup. We also have security today by Townsend and Shane, our two security detail here. And Emma Friedman is in the house. She's the one responsible for getting our show in through the main console and out on the air. Pretty important job, I'd say. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what you got, Chuck? You got something a little lighter here that we can...
Oh, you asked the wrong question there.
Oh, God, no. Sorry.
Maybe I could do one.
No, don't change anything. It's cool. It's cool. I just want to hear another song. I don't care what you do.
Well, I love the story behind this song. And this is one of my favorite songs I think I've ever written. It's about a man whose name was Adolfo Kaminsky. And Adolfo passed away last year at the age of 94. But when he was a teenager and into his young 20s, he was enlisted by the partisan movement in France to fight the Nazis because he had very, very special skills as a forger of documents. He had gotten his knowledge of inks and dyes and fabrics from working in the garment industry, and the partisans realized how valuable he could be to them with his knowledge of inks and dyes and fabrics. And so he was forging passports that enabled people to flee the Nazis and make their way to safety. And he did this for long beyond the end of World War II. He helped people flee repressive regimes around the world right on through the end of the Vietnam War.
Wow, really?
Yeah. And a book was written by his daughter, Sarah Kaminsky, a few years ago about him, because he actually had to keep all of this secret at the time and never told a soul until he was 89 years old. And he decided he didn't want to take this to the grave, so he did tell his daughter. And she wrote this wonderful book.
Yeah.
Wow. So this song's called The Forger. And
Up on the 3rd floor, I used to rent a room. It got no fresh air. You could get dizzy from the fumes. I'd spend the nights in there. Maybe I'd sleep a few winks, clear a place somewhere. between the papers and the inks. I had a printing press. It was my Tommy gun. I dreamed I'd ambush them whenever it would run. I couldn't shoot a man. Well, this was what I could do. And with my documents, the guards would have waved them through. I didn't know them. I never met them. But how could I turn away and just forget them? Still can picture some of their faces. They were desperate to leave for safer places. I was an artisan, a counterfeiter. I had a steady hand that didn't get the jitters. One day the partisans told me my skills were needed, 'cause there was madness on the rise that had to be defeated. I doctored names, altered their ages. I put a different place of birth upon the pages. I made them businessmen. I made them teachers. I made them someone else with all the same features. I didn't know them. I never met them. How could I turn away and just forget them? I still can picture some of their faces. They were desperate to leave for safer places. I'd meet my handler in busy cafes. We would trade envelopes, then go our separate ways. No time for small talk, too many lives at stake. Passports to reproduce, all night I'd be awake. I worked in secrecy, nobody knew of this, not even my daughter or my wife. There was just too much risk. They said I worked too much, and I couldn't tell them why. But now I have to tell someone before I die. I didn't know them. I never met them. How could I turn away and just forget them? Still can picture some of their faces. They were desperate to leave for safer places. I didn't know them. I never met them. How could I turn away and just forget them? Still can picture some of their faces.
Great song.
Thank you.
When did you write that?
A few years ago. That's on my Them and Us album, the most recent one.
Yeah,
Two
Them and
Beats.
Us's most recent album. Well, we've got Chuck Brodsky on our show today, folks, and we just love having him on the show. We know we're going to hear some great stuff, and today certainly has been no exception so far. He's got a couple of gigs coming up. He's got a sold-out show at the Craftsman House Gallery and Studio tonight in St. Pete. But Chuck says give him a call down there, put your name on the waiting list. You never know. So that's a 6:30 show in St. Pete at the Craftsman House Gallery. But there is a show you can go to, especially if you're down south of here, Ruskin, Florida, at the Firehouse Cultural Center, and that is a 3 o'clock in the afternoon concert on Sunday. And you can get more contact information at chuckbrodsky.com, and that is spelled Brodsky, chuckbrodsky.com. You can find out all that stuff about how to get a hold of those venues. And hope to get to see Chuck. He comes down here every year, and we're happy to have him.
And I appreciate that very much. You guys have been so good to me over the years. Really,
Well,
WMNF is, I can't say enough great things about you.
You know, when you were growing up, starting to write songs, I don't remember your exact, what you told me in past shows about when you started doing this. I think you were fairly young when you started picking and singing, right?
Well, I started playing piano when I was a baby, literally. I started taking lessons at the age of 5, but there are photos of me sitting at the piano at 2 years old and 3 years old, just plinking. I was very drawn to it, and I picked up the guitar in college. I started writing songs my senior year of high school, and so I've been doing that for almost 42 years now, writing songs and playing guitar for almost that long.
Where did the time go, right?
Really, yeah.
But when you were starting up, who were your people that really influenced you? Who'd you listen to? Who'd you like? Who'd you want to be like?
Great question. You know, first, like I transitioned because in my earlier and mid-teens, I was listening more to rock band stuff, Rolling Stones and Southern rock, Allman Brothers and Outlaws and stuff. And then I discovered the singer-songwriter genre probably around high school, and so I still like some of those bands, Little Feat and stuff. But my focus started to shift to people like Bob Dylan and Woody Guthrie and Bruce Springsteen. So I suppose I wanted to be Bruce Springsteen when I was a teenager, and then I started going to folk festivals and started to really appreciate the stripped down thing and what one person and just a guitar could do in front of a huge crowd.
Of course, you were at the one of the biggest folk festivals
Philadelphia.
there, Philadelphia, yeah.
I used to volunteer there as a kid, and I used to dream that one day I'd get to play there, and I have gotten to play there several times, and that was a lot of fun in front of family and folks that I knew from growing up, and that was a big homecoming. But you know, it's just.
Well, it's good to find out this. You know, I don't remember ever asking you about this before, but yeah.
But as far as like the singer-songwriters that influenced me,
Well,
beside the obvious, I'd say people like Pierce Pettis and Greg Brown,
I was just going to say Greg Brown, yeah.
Loudon Wainwright to a certain degree, but Steve Forbert was huge. John Hartford was huge.
That's great.
Kind of the wittier ones, the ones that were understated and had a little bit of deft wordplay and real subtle humor. I really appreciate that kind of thing.
Well, I'll tell you what, we've got about 6.5 minutes to go. Do you think we could squeeze in a couple of short ones or one epic one or something like that?
Yeah, well, at least try this one if we have time for another one.
I mean, we can run over a little bit. The folks on YouTube and Facebook will still see the whole song.
Okay.
We
Well,
might have to fade you out to go on the air for the news, but everybody else will hear the whole thing. So if you want to do a little medley, that'd be great too.
I don't know if I could do a medley. I don't know about that, but I'll just do this one if we have time for another. This is my oldest song. I wrote this in 1981.
Wow.
I still sing it almost 40 years later.
Well, I hope I see you later, 'cause it's time for me to go. That's my ride, just put over. And it sure was good to know you. So go answer your calling. Go go and fill somebody's cup. And if you see an angel falling, won't you stop and help them up? We are each other's angels, and we meet when it is time. We keep each other going, and we show each other signs. Sometimes you'll stumble, sometimes you'll just lie down. Sometimes you'll get lonely with all these people around. We might shiver when the wind blows, and you might get blown away. You might lose a little color, you might lose a little faith, but we are each other's angels, and we meet when it is time. We keep each other going, and we show each other signs. Thank you for the water. Thought I was gonna die out here in the desert, but you quenched my thirst. Let's break a little bread together. Got a little manna. It was a gift from someone who was passing by and offered me a lift. We are each other's angels, and we meet when it is time. We keep each other going, and we show each other signs.
Wow, nice sweet song, yeah.
Thanks.
You wrote that in 1981?
Yeah.
Gee whiz. Chuck Brodsky, our guest on today's live music showcase. I'll tell you what, we've got 2 minutes.
2 minutes. You know a
Yeah.
good joke? That takes
No,
2
no,
minutes?
you can play something and run over that a little bit.
All right.
Chuck's a trooper here, folks. You can find out more about him at his website, chuckbrodsky.com. Brodsky. Chuck, thanks for coming in today again. We love having you on our
It's
show.
always my pleasure, and I appreciate you guys making me so welcome every time here. So
And good luck in the coming weeks and months.
thank you. And to everybody out there, we're all in this together, so it's very emotional right now, and we're all very scared, but we'll do the best we can. So
Well, I came to our town for maybe an hour. The streets, they got swept and they planted some flowers. Baby's kiss to the people he waved, and he stopped at a Civil War general's grave and struck just the right pose he needed, just the right chord. When he spoke of the family and then of the Lord, he addressed the concerns of the common man. He spoke of the glory of this mighty land. Color in his smile was fixed, and his wardrobe assembled from a bag full of tricks. And he had gobs of makeup that were caked on his face, starch in his collar, every hair was in place. And his wife stood beside him, and his daughter did too. Behind them, the flag with the red, white, and blue. Balloons from the rafters, they fell to the floor. Oh, happy days, we're gonna be here once more. said all the right words, he quoted Bob Dylan songs. He sounded hip even though he quoted them wrong. And his closets were cleaned and his history revised, so his record would be spotless in most people's eyes. And he could sell you a war, he could revoke your rights, and still come off as your friend in the camera lights. He'll run negative ads if he has to win. He'll go back on his word and he will shed his old skin. Well, I was not touched by this guy in the least. He was no savior, I think he was the beast. And I have to admit, they staged a good show. It was all reminiscent of 4 years ago, when he came to our town for maybe an hour. The streets, they got swept and they planted some flowers. Babies kissed to the people he waved, and he stopped at a Civil War general's grave. And after an hour, they whisked him away. Things went back to normal, but it took 2 or 3 days. The homeless returned to living outside, and the flowers that they planted, they all wilted and died. Yes, it came to our town for maybe an hour. The streets, they got swept and they planted some flowers.